Alright, good morning everyone, or good afternoon, it's just turned here I think, 12 o'clock, almost on the dot. How's everyone today? So it's been an absolute eternity since I've been doing anything with the observatory. We've had crappy weather for months. I can't remember when I did the last live stream, I think it was about 8 weeks ago. So I thought, well, I'm going back to work next week, so I'll fire it up and we'll see how the sun's doing today. And then if it was clear tonight, we've got a new moon, so we'll maybe do something in with the RASA tonight. So anyway, we're on the sun. I don't know who's all in the chat. Good morning to concurrent viewers, welcome in. Don't be afraid to say hello. I don't know if the stream's working. It keeps telling me I've got excellent connection, but it doesn't seem to be updating. So you can let me know if everything's loud and clear. I'm absolutely melting in here. It's currently 33 degrees inside the observatory. I did have the aircon on, but it's far too loud, so I've turned it off again. And the sun is beating down outside. So I've started off the scope with the standard native telescope focal length. I think it's 560mm, and I don't know if you can hear the dogs next door barking, or I don't know if it's our dogs in the swimming pool, but apologies for that. Yeah, so as I say, I've got the Lunt LS80MT solar scope on the go with an ASI174 mono camera. All sitting on top of the CGX mount outside of the observatory there. And the sun is not too bad today. There's a bit of activity there. You can see a few filaments running along the surface, a few sunspots, and the atmosphere looks relatively stable. That sounds like our dog that's barking. The kids must be winding it up in the pool. So I'll probably do the usual. We'll have a scout around the sun and we'll see what flares and things are popping out the sides of the disc when I increase the exposure, and then I'll potentially change across to the 2.5 Celestron Luminos Barlow, and then depending how the atmosphere, how stable it is, I'll maybe swap across again after that onto the Tele Vue Powermate 4x multiplier. And if it is still relatively good, we can still then again maybe combine all the Barlows together, so both the 2.5 and the 4x, and see if we can get really deep in on the sunspots. But it depends how things are going. I have used the autofocus this morning using contrast edge detection, and it's looking not too bad, and the pressure tuner has been adjusted and it seems to be around about the sweet spot. So things are not looking too bad at the moment. If we have a quick look at space weather live, we can see here's all the regional information for the sunspots. So we've got these cluster areas here, 4143, 4146, and looks like 4139 on the right hand side, and 4149 on the left hand side. I think with my scope's current orientation, I think these are actually flipped, and once we get across the meridian, it should go back into the correct orientation, or the same representative rotation. So we'll see how that goes. So if we've got quite a low exposure at the minute. I'm using the full resolution of the 174 camera, so that's 1936 by 1216. We are zoomed in at 150% digitally on the software. If I put back to auto, you can see how small it is in the frame, so I can reduce the field of view, or the region of interest I should say, down just to focus in on the sun, and I'll also try and keep the sun in the center of the optics, and that also helps the quality of the images. So I'll move the sun over a bit, and then I can pull down the region of interest. So we're currently doing 65.4 frames a second, and if I knock this down to say I think there's a square one here, isn't there? Or is that a different camera? 1280 by 1024, how does that behave? That's, yeah, that seems to fit not too bad. We'll just square up the sun again. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. There we go, that's good enough. It looks like I need to just adjust the contrast in that a little bit. I don't know how much high level cloud there is up there today. I'm not seeing anything drift through. We're not seeing anything really change. So I can just do a tweak on here and see if we can just pull out some of that detail. It maybe needs another slight autofocus as conditions have changed. The telescope's obviously got the pressure tuner, so it will maybe adjust slightly with temperature. You know, obviously as the scope's warming up, the pressure in the chamber will probably increase, so I might need to back off the pressure tuner a little bit depending on how things look. So zoomed in there at 150%. It's looking not too bad. We've obviously got these sunspot regions on both the left and right hand side of the sun from my point of view. I think I'll start to drop the gain down on the camera and pull up the exposure, because I'm normally around about 4 milliseconds on the exposure, and we'll just take all the digital gain out of the equation. The gain's handy for rapidly increasing the signal so I can see what's going on the edges of the disc, but when I'm doing just the bare native, I generally don't use gain. It is obviously a dedicated solar scope, so it's got obviously all the energy rejection built into it, and it's the B1800 blocking filter in there, a single stack pressure tuner, so it's good for down to 0.7 angstroms of bandwidth through that filter. But it's not looking too bad today. Right, let me drop it down to 100% and I'll increase the gain, and we'll oversaturate the sun there and just see what's sitting on the perimeter of the disc. There seems to be a bit of activity up the top right, but there's no real big, let me remove the stretch, a bit of activity here up in the top right, maybe a little bit on the left, another one on the top left, and a bit larger on the bottom. Let me zoom in a bit more. And you can see here, yeah, we've got some flare activity there on the right hand side. There seems to be quite a large one, which is maybe 3 or 4 Earths tall. Right up in the top, very faint there. I don't know if I can pull that out with the curves. It's a bit hard to get that one, it's quite faint. Let me increase the gain just a touch. No, I've blown it out too far. And over on the left, a little bit of activity, nothing too severe going on there. And down the bottom, and they seem to be pretty generally flat filaments, flares there. So not too much happening on the disc, so we'll maybe go in and take a look at this region on the top right later on when I put the 2.5 Barlow in. Alright, I'll put the gain back down and drop the exposure a little bit, adjust the curve. Yeah, so there's a few filaments running across the surface. This big sweeping one down here in the center, looks like one wrapped in around from the edge of the disc here. trying to get this right. We increased exposure just a touch. There we go, not too bad there. There we go. And what else have we got? It looks like another small sunspot region here, another one in the center of the sun there. Looks like just a single, maybe a cluster, a single large spot, maybe 2 or 3 little ones, possibly another one here. They're showing up on the map. Yeah, so these are probably these ones, and this one here, 4142. That might relate to them. This one here. So yeah, there's not too much, but there is obviously activity there. I think last week or the week before they had quite a number of big flare events. Again, we can see all this information on the Space Weather Live. You can see the total number of sunspot regions. So these are all the various region numbers on the left and the number of sunspots within each of those regions. So what we're running: 9, 10, 28, 38, 40, 39, 44, 46, 7, 8, 51. About 53 sunspots currently on the sun, and there's no big activity really happening. Did we have some M class? When was that? Around about 7:45 this morning UTC. Looks like their coronal hole camera is not working, and then the solar flares, these are the ones here that we've just been talking around up there on the right. Alright, so things aren't looking too bad. Let me just see if I can tighten up the zoom, the focus just a touch. Let me put on the focus assistant. Let's pull that sunspot there, and let's just tweak. I'm using 5 steps on the ZWO focuser. Yeah, so that's increased there, so that's got sharper. And we've come back down again, so we'll just nudge it back positive slightly with 5 steps. Could be have a slight backlash error on the focuser, which is throwing it out. Either that, the conditions are obviously changing. And that's increasing there. There seems to be quite a bit of a lag on the stream, so apologies if I'm distracted by the live view. I'm just checking what's going out. We'll bring it back. Where was I going? I forgot which way I was going, so we want to go negative. Now that's getting worse there, but that could be conditions, so we'll go back positive again. Oh no, it's coming back up, yeah. Things are maybe just a little bit variable. I wonder if the pressure tuner does need a little bit of a tweak. It's looking quite flat, the surface, even though you can see all the individual components of the sun. The other thing I'm noticing is the left hand seems to be top left quadrant. Seems to be a little bit more detailed in the right hand quadrant, so whether the sun's drifted out of the centre of the optics. My region of the interest is in the centre, so it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Let me go and give a quick tweak just to the pressure tuner and see if that makes a difference. So to do that, I remote desktop from my phone onto the PC that is used to control that telescope. So I've actually got 3 active computers in the observatory here at the moment. One of them is connected to the rig and does all the imaging. The one here it sits in front of me that I actually use it to look remote desktop onto that PC and also run OBS to capture the remote desktop session. And then on the right hand side I've got another laptop there that I use for the monitoring the stream. And then down below me to the right I've got another screen which is currently the output of the OBS through an A10 Mini Pro stream switcher. I digress. Okay, let me remote into the scope and into the remote desktop session through my phone, and I'll let me go and adjust the pressure tuner. So you'll see it appear on the top left, the live view of the telescope. And I don't think you can see the pressure tuner. It's currently on the left hand side of the scope, just above that green ring is where the pressure tuner is. So it's just a screw cap with a piston in it that just compresses the air within the echelons of the scope. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Mr. Johnson, good morning. There we go, that's better. My connection on my phone kept dropping out. I was still connected to the house Wi-Fi, it was just out of range, it kept dropping in and out. But we're connected to the observatory now, job done. How are you, Ian? How's Stonehaven this morning? Is it still raining? Need to move this camera around a bit. There we go. Yeah, my parents are up in Barlow this weekend, and it's when I spoke to them yesterday afternoon, it was pouring with rain and breezy. Aye, pushing down. I think it's the same across most of the UK, is it? I'm absolutely melting. It's currently 34 inside the observatory. I don't know what it is outside. Let me just have a look and see if I can... Oh, press the wrong button, that's my GitHub. Invalid username and password? I don't think so. Why is that not working? Don't worry about it. I've got the aircon. I had it on earlier on, but I put it off just before the stream. I think it's too loud. Let me put it on and you can tell me if it's too loud. I can certainly see it on the UV meter, the AV meter for the stream. Alright, that's the aircon on. Bloody dogs next door barking, or my dog's barking. Yeah, it's too loud. No, that's on its lowest setting. I'll turn it off again. You get used to the heat. It's the same temperature in my office, which is no use. Right, so what was I going to do? Yeah, so that looks like the pressure tuner's dialed in now. Things are not looking too bad. Let me just adjust the curve slightly. See if we can pull out the flares in that, and I'll probably go and switch over to the 2.5 Barlow so we can go in a bit. Let's nudge up the exposure just a touch. That's blowing out the sunspot. That's too high, that exposure. How's it looking negative? Okay. Yeah, you had your drought already, so now that you've got your pushing down weather, hopefully that'll sort out and refill some of the water stocks if it's persistent for a few days. I don't know why I've got such a long delay between what's going out and what's I see on live. Right, now that I've dialed in the what do you call it, pressure tuner, let me increase the gain and see if we can pull out any more of the detail of the flares. It's really that big one in the top right that's standing out. Oh no, there we go, we're starting to show the ones on the left. Once I put in the Barlows though, and it brings the light down, we'll be able to crank up a bit and probably get better detail. How's work at the moment, Ian? Are you still doing a couple of days a week? Are you doing more of your own electronic stuff again? Oh, there we son, I went the other way. Right, I'll maybe go and pop in the 2.5x Barlow now. Let me put the camera back to its full region of interest and make sure the zoom is all it goes so I can see the full frame. Makes it easier to find it once I change the Barlow. Right, let me go and put that in. So I'll be putting the 2.5 Barlow in now, a Celestron Luminos. Hope it's clean. No, there's a big mark there somewhere. I don't know if it's on the inside of these lenses. Where's my puffer? Where's my puffer? It's looking not too bad, I think. Right. Yeah, there's always a project in the workshop, plenty to keep you busy. Right, I'll go and pop Barlow in. Right. One Barlow in, increase the exposure, try and find the sun again. Right, so the focus is obviously shifted. Reset the stretch. I bet I've gone the wrong way again. I always go the wrong way. You'd think you'd remember. Yeah, I think that's the wrong way. Let's go negative. I think we are still on the sun. There we go, we're starting to see the edge. Did we go through focus there? Yes, we did. We'll come back out, 1000, and now knock this down to 100. Let's get the histogram up. Right, that's the wrong way. We're not far off focus there. I would say that's pretty much where we need to be. Now we adjust the curves. The exposure's too high. I think we're pretty close around about there someplace. Oh, too much. Focus maybe shifted slightly. Right, what have we got? Up the top. I wouldn't be surprised if, where's the camera looking? I wouldn't be surprised we're getting close to the meridian flip time. We'll get an alert up soon for hitting the end stops. Yeah, there's a lot more atmospheric turbulence today. I can definitely see that. So you can clearly see the filaments across the surface. And we can clearly see the sunspot regions. That's better. Yeah, I think these sunspots were pretty much in the center of the sun a few days ago. So the big flares we saw were top right, sort of middle left. So let me increase the gain. Let's see if we can find them. So we can see 1, 2 regions there. One smaller one down here at the bottom. It's quite a large area on the right. This up here. Yeah, I'm not getting it as sharp as I normally can get it. It's definitely a lot more turbulence. The old atmosphere is not playing ball today. But we seem to have something coming out. This is the negative view. It's a very faint one up around the 2 o'clock position, 1 o'clock, half 1 position, and that prominent area around about the 2 o'clock. And then on the surface, quite a number of filaments. I'm not seeing any real active flare regions. Nothing's really changed. Let me just tweak this a bit. That's better. Keeps coming in and out of focus, unfortunately. Let's continue down. this a minute. Do something. Right, what have we got? Oh, I'm sweating buckets. Hat off. So let me grab, let's see what's best frame for taking a snapshot. I can process later. I'm thinking maybe this center right side where I've got that filaments and also that sunspot region, so sort of this. Come on, scope, move. So let me turn on the live, what did he call it again? Live stacking solar and false colorization. So we're using 150 frames to stack. Let's take out some of the noise reduction. Let's increase the brightness a touch, I think. There we go. It's looking not too bad there. So this was one of the relatively new features that they added into SharpCap with the live stacking for solar. It seems to work quite well. Let's zoom in. Can it let me zoom in? Yeah. Certainly see the detail. So we've got a few sunspots, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, 7 sunspots here on the left, and then another, looks like a couple. Let me zoom in another level. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 sunspots there on the left. Looks like a couple of spots joined here. A few filaments running across the center. A large couple of filament arcs. Certainly this looks like an arc in and out, going by all the surface patterns there on the sun. This filament running down the center of the sun here. Seems to be quite a wave. Is this originating from this sort of region here? I don't know if these are active flare regions that are just starting to boil up. and then on the side we can see the prominences coming out. Another sunspot region, potentially some activity around this sort of arc here. Nothing down the bottom there. Okay, let's go back to auto, let's go back to the normal view, and let's reposition the camera and see if we can see what's on the disc at the left hand side of the sun. Oh, what have we got down the bottom then? Let's do the bottom first. You can see these grey dark areas of filaments on the surface. Let's go into the live stacking and zoom in. Yeah, so there doesn't seem to be anything around the disc. Okay, so we've got this prominence here on the right hand side. There must be a big solar sunspot region just round the side of the sun there. I've got a bright spot there. I'll have to keep an eye on that and see if it flares up any. Other than that, it's pretty quiet. There's maybe this brighter region here. There's maybe something starting to form or something decaying there. And a couple of small dotty areas, but nothing of note. Okay. Let's go back to the main view, the live view. Let's scroll up the sun. Into this other sunspot region on the left. So you get that in with the top of the sun, and back to live stack and 150%. Okay, so we've got, what's this, probably 3 clusters, sunspots. Oh man, it's 36 degrees in here now. I don't know if opening the door makes it worse or not. I could open the shutter and see if that lets some of the heat out. And then it gets too bright. I've got too many mice, too many keypads. Okay, what have we got over the other side? There's nothing really, a few darker areas, surface filaments. Nothing up the top. So it's not even really pulling out this filament, this flare prominence region here. Okay, let's move the camera. Wrong way again, need to wait till the meridian. This region on the right between these two sunspots definitely looks like it's getting brighter there. So whether this is a really active section, you can just see that white blob. Yeah, it seems to be getting brighter, and I haven't changed any of the image settings. So this saturates the areas here. So good afternoon to everybody who's joined in. I see the viewer count is increasing, so thank you very much for dropping in by. We are live on the sun, obviously, from sunny Paphos in Cyprus. And any of you who are currently subscribers, thank you very much for getting me past the 2,000 subs. Good afternoon, Two Hands Luke. How are you today? So I was planning on doing a lot more astro stuff this time home, but the first week I was home, it was like over 40 degrees and there was no way I was sitting outside cooking in here for that. And then at night it was clear, but you know, there was patches of cloud coming through, so I didn't bother setting up anything. So hopefully when I get back next time, in about 5 weeks time, things will have significantly improved. We'll be into the tail end of August, early September. The only problem is the humidity will start to pick up. No, I think the most of Northern Europe, UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Denmark, they're all, I think, getting drowned at the moment, aren't they? We need rain, we need lots of rain. Our reservoirs here in Cyprus are really depleting now. I think the total capacity, if you go onto Google and search for Cyprus dam levels, it'll bring you up to the Water Authority's website that shows you the current stock levels, and the total reservoir capacity in the country is down to, I think it's 17.8%, and we haven't really had any heavy rains at all. I think they had some thunderstorms up in the mountains a couple of days ago, but they didn't really come to much. And the Mavrouk Olympus reservoir, which is about maybe 5 kilometres from here, it's completely bone dry, and they had to empty it in November due to a leak in an outlet pipe, and they've never fixed it yet. So that reservoir, I think they dumped 1.5 million cubic metres of water or something back in November. That's never been fixed or filled up at all. And then there's another reservoir, I think it's in the Nicosia district, I think it's down to 5% capacity, and all the others are very low as well. I know they're spending money on getting some desalination plants and things installed, and I think they've given grants to some of the bigger hotels to install their own plants to be self-sufficient, but all that takes time. So we'll wait and see what pans out. We really need a wet winter like we had, I think it was 4 years ago, where we filled and overflowed every reservoir. But when you drive around the city, you still see people just wasting water, washing down pavements and things like that. It's just ridiculous. They should be severely prosecuted for that. They don't listen. Cyprus, they do what they want. Anyway, I digress. So what have we got? The right hand side, where's that bright region? Is it getting any bigger? Let me reset the stack and just see if it rebuilds differently. That filament regions are definitely standing out. Let's move the camera to the left. Yeah, I bet I'll have to go to the right. Let's turn off the live stack. See where we are. So this is obviously false colorization by the software, which looks like he's managed to get it working or added it in mono 16. It only used to do it on mono 8. Alright, let's live stack this region here. Let's pop in the zoom a bit. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, maybe seven or so sunspots here. Another region up here. Big wispy filament. Looks like it's emanating from there. It's either joined and comes around, or they're both terminating on the surface here. It's hard to tell. And that filament arc there. We're certainly seeing a good surface detail. So whether the atmosphere's calmed down a bit. This is definitely getting brighter, this bit here. So it's off to the right here and up a bit. I'll maybe go and put the 4x Barlow in, and we'll go right in on this area, well, all the areas, and see what's going on. So before I do that, this is what we've got with a 2.5 Barlow on the scope, and the native scope's 500, I think it's 580 millimeters focal length, so multiply that by 2.5 to give you the current focal length. And then obviously once I put the other Barlow in, we'll take the 2.5 out, we'll put the 4x in, and then if the atmosphere is behaving, we can always double stack the Barlows and see how we get on. I think I'm going to grab a capture of this central region just to see what I can process later. So I'll do a quick 30-second capture there. So everybody that's lurking in the background, don't be afraid, come and say hello, let us know where you are, say hi to everybody. We don't bite very often. Right, let's go back up the top. Yeah, there's definitely nothing happening up over the top here. Can't see anything at all. If I increase the gain, what do we see? You can see these filaments in the right, so the prominence is on the right hand side here. This one's a very faint at the top. Just waiting for the scope to decide it wants to go and hit its end stops. It can't be far away. Down the bottom. Maybe one region in the bottom right, another one in the centre top left, right? Not a lot there today. God, that dog's barking are getting annoying. Alright, so let me... Oh, sorry, I wanted to just quickly grab this area as well. And then I'll pop in the 4X Barlow. And let's see if we get closer in, see how the atmosphere is. I pulled some spiky things out from the garden. Hey Daniel, how are you today? Yeah, I haven't been doing enough of them lately. This last few months have just been a washout when it's come to the astro stuff. I didn't fancy sitting out here in the cold in the winter, even though it's not quite Alaska cold. It's too cold for down here. So I've spent more time on the sim rig on the other channel and Is Dave Gaming doing the racing stuff. And I still haven't done enough streaming on that either. I need to get into that properly. Right, let me go and pop in the 4X Barlow. Let me center the sun back on the middle of the optics, roughly. Hopefully it'll be easier to find then. And that's round about there. Right, so this is the Tele Vue, this is the Tele Vue Powermate 4X Barlow. Let's give the lenses a quick blast. This is when we'll really see all the dust on the optics. They show up a lot more at this level. Oh, something just bulleted past the sun there. I don't know whether it was a satellite or a bird. Right, let me go and pop this in, back in a second, and then we'll try and hunt the sun down and go zoom in on these sunspots. Right, that's the 2.5X Barlow out and the 4X Barlow in. Right, need to get the focus, get the exposure, so the first thing I'll do, am I on the right mouse yet? Right, increase the exposure. I think we're on the sun, we just need to just drop the, let's go negative on the course. Can't remember how much, because it's not parafocal, this optics. There we go. We've reached the slew limit. I'll need to go and meridian flip. Picked a bad time to do that. Right, let's go to sun, and we'll see the telescope will flip over. And then we'll have the job of trying to find it with a bloody 4X Barlow. I should have waited. I knew it was getting close. Bit of water. And we can see the scopes moving onto the other side of the meridian. Okay, so it thinks it's on the sun, but we can clearly see it ain't. So what I'll do is I pop this down to probably 0.5 degrees per second and put on a spiral search. And if we look at the histogram, we should see when the sun's getting close. View to tools histogram and spiral search. Oh, I forgot to turn up the gain, that helps to find the sun. So we watch this histogram and it tells me which direction the sun is. So we're currently using the scope doing a spiral search, so it should eventually find it. If not, I'll manually just eyeball it. Looks like we're getting close. I just saw that getting close there. Oh, is it going to come back in again? Oh, we're getting close. Right, we're around about here someplace, so now I'll just do it up and down. Let's put this back to 8x so I don't overshoot. Okay, so we're moving away. Oh, is that a seat in the top left? It's just got bright there. There we go, we're getting closer. That looks like the sun to me. Let's knock the gain back down a bit if we get too close to it. So we're underneath the sun now. Let's knock the gain down before we burn everything out. Right, now we need to get the focus sorted out. Set this to 1000 steps and we go negative. And I'm looking for the halo to pull in close to the surface. And then it'll sharpen up. Somebody go and strangle that dog. You can see the dust bunnies on the lenses now. Let's turn the gain a bit down more. Let's move this up. Wrong way. Come on, son. I've maybe gone through it when I've had the gain too high, though. I think that's what we've done. Maybe I have to start going the other way. Either that or on a lens flare. No, that's the scope zoom fully in, so yeah, we've gone the wrong way. Oh dearie me. Look at all that dust on the lenses. Keep nudging out the scope. Oh, sun, where are you? I'm sure I'm on it. Here we go. Coming into focus now. You can start to see the sunspots. Let's knock this down to 100 so I don't go zooming past focus. There we go, we're starting to see something. Let's reset the curves. I need to turn down something, it's far too bright. We're still not quite focused. We're not far off there. .12 millisecond exposures. We're almost there. I think that's not bad. So, what am I on? I've got solar tracking, 8x, okay. Let's just tweak this slightly. I've still got gain on, which doesn't help. Focus isn't right. Let's reset the stretch. Don't like that. Right, we're starting to see the detail there. I'm pretty close, I think, around that. Got there in the end. So let's move around. Let's see which direction switch now, because obviously we're going past the meridian. Right, the edge of the sun doesn't look right there, so I've got too much dialed in there. Open up the band. Let's try a live stack and just see how it handles it. Let's turn down the brightness a bit. Adjust these. Starting to look a bit better there. Round about that, I think. What's it done? Right, let's take off this colorization at the moment. And let's move down. So this was that cluster on the, which was on the left side of the sun, now on the right side, I think, if my orientation is flipped. Let's go to 100%. So you can see how much turbulence we've got there in the atmosphere. So we're currently pulling in images at 54 frames a second, and you can see how much everything's moving around. So I don't think we'll be able to double stack the Barlows today. That's just too much movement. Let's see if the live stack without colorization handles that. Let's reset all. There we go, that's better. Yeah, so that's that cluster on the right. There we go, so that's one, which region's that? So 1, 2, 3, 4 sunspots, so that is, oh, which one's that now? That's a good question. This might be this one, or is it 4149? How close, is there another region 413 in a bit from it? No, so I think this is the one that's on the left. Yeah, so there's nothing. So if we flip up to the other side of the sun, let's take off the live stacking and move the scope over to the other side. Filaments in the middle there, so you can keep them in frame. No. There's the other region down there, and the filaments. Alright Ian, thank you very much for dropping by. Hope the weather dries up in Stonehaven. We'll see you next time. I'm not sure if this is a flare, active flare region that's starting to develop. I think that was the one that was on the other side previously that I said was starting to get brighter, so there's maybe something going on there. I wish I could get this sharper, but I think there's just too much turbulence and the seeing conditions aren't great. Can't get it any sharper. live stack that area. Watch that for a second, see what's going on. So let's drop the number of frames in the live stack. Let's change it. What we're doing 55 frames a second. Keep going the wrong keyboard. So there we have the sun with the 4x Barlow, the Tele Vue Powermate, on the Lunt LS80 solar telescope. And we're obviously got a lot of atmospheric turbulence, which isn't helping trying to keep things sharp. Let's move the. Let's have a look at the disk. Let's turn up the gain and saturate out the sun. See what shows up around the disk. So there's not a lot. On this side. I'll walk the sun round. So we've got a region up here. If we put on live here, turn the gain down. Reset the stack. Colorization. To pull out that detail just a bit more, maybe increase the number of frames. It might get what we're rejecting. I only add 15%, calculate statistics over 250. It's getting way too turbulent now. We've lost all the detail, unless there's a bit of haze come through, which it might have been. I've had to increase the exposure. Back to that region on the other side. Let's live stack there. So that's that region on the right. You know, for an automated live stack and fake colorization, that doesn't look too bad at all, especially given the conditions. I want to go the other way. quite a large filament there, this dark band. Small sunspot there. Okay, where was that active region on the other side? That was this one here. Tools Live. Oh, cooking. And we've got this cluster up here. Let's move there a bit. Edge of the frame. Oh, wrong button. I need to wait that finish. Looks like one single lowly sunspot, and then this bright region here coming in the surface. So whether that's developing into something or something decaying, I don't know. Well, that cold breeze is coming in the door nicely. Anything up the top? Looks pretty quiet up here. So this area here seems to be the most active at the moment. This region here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12-ish sunspots in that cluster. certainly the amount of lizards must love this observatory. When I came in this time home, I think it was the first time I'd opened the observatory for about 6 or 8 weeks, and everything was just covered. And there was a few big spider webs and you name it, so I cleaned all that out. But even over the last couple of weeks, the signs of life are all over the floor. Need to give it another clean before I go. Alright, so I think that's really about it. What's that been? An hour, just over an hour and a half I've been going, sitting in this sweat box. It's currently 36 degrees in here. So I'll pop back to the native focal length so we can get the full disc. See what that looks like on the auto stacking and things. So I'll go and do that now. Don't need that. So give me a second. Right, turn the exposure down. I need to sort the zoom out, so I need, which way do I need to go now? I've forgotten. In or out? In. So in. Let's take off the colorization. Is that improving or getting worse? Getting worse. We're getting there. It's coming into focus. Right, we're not far off there. Let me just drop the region of interest down. Move the sun to the center of the optics. Drop the focus steps down to 100. We need to keep coming out. Maybe go past it there. No, not looking too bad there. And live stack that. We'll see what the reset all. Radius needs to change. And there we have it, a live whole disk view of the sun. See if you can tweak it slightly. Oh, didn't want to do that. Wonderful. Hello there, Mr. Cherry, how are you? Oh, somebody's going somewhere in the car. Alright, there we have it. 625%. That was drifted off, that's why the optics look a bit funny. So one full disk view of the sun. That's with the Lunt LS80 solar scope, the ASI2600MC mono camera. I've got no Barlow in it at the moment. So previously, earlier in the stream, obviously was the 2.5 Barlow and then the 4x Barlow. The telescope itself, native focal length, I think it's 560mm. 80mm aperture, single stack pressure tuner, and the B1800 blocking filter. The software we're using here is SharpCap Pro, and it sits on everything sitting on top of the CGX mount, and that's really about it. That's all I can think of. So unless anybody's got any queries or questions, I could do a quick grab of this and I can process that later. So to process it, I'll take the SER file, I'll pull it into Registacks, Auto Stacker, and then Registacks, and then I'll pull it into probably, oh god, I forgot the name of the software, PixInsight. And I'll probably use the Solar Toolbox on that to try and process it, and then tweak it with all the curves and histograms and things like that. There's not really a lot else to say apart from I'm absolutely roasting. I think I'm going to call it a wrap there. That's what we've been going, just coming up an hour, well, an hour and 45 minutes roughly. So depending on how it is tonight, we have got a new moon, so I might use the RASA 11-inch, which is the one behind me here in the observatory. I might do another stream tonight with that, see if there's any targets that we could pick out and leave the scope running on. I'm not going to set up the other scope, the deep space one, the Celestron 11-inch HD. I'll leave that to now, because I just need to tear it all back down again tomorrow before I disappear. Alright, thank you all for watching. Thank you very much for coming into the stream, and again thank you to all the subscribers for getting me past the 2,000 subscriber mark. It took a few years to get there, but just plodding away. Nice steady rise every day. And apologies for not doing enough streams over the last few months, but A, the weather wasn't good, B, it got too hot, and C, I had racing to do on the sim rig, which I haven't also done enough streaming on. So if you're into that side of things as well, the sim racing, you can catch me on my other channel as Dave Gaming. We'll maybe see you there sometime. If not, we'll see you back on here at some point. Thank you very much, and that's a wrap. I'll catch you later.